Last time on RWBY, Summer Rose is revealed for the very first time and reads a story to a young Yang and RWBY pertaining to a female named Alex, which has Jean, Weiss, Blake, and Yang going back to the village where the people pleasers were previously residing, only to find the genial gems come to the area to clean things up, giving everybody hope about RWBY and her fate. When John revealed that the Curious Cat was correct about one item, it's not a place you go, Weiss ends up saying it's a place you know, which leads all four to the Great Tree. When the group finds a statue of the herbalist, it doesn't take long for the statue of RWBY to be revealed not far from it. And in turn, they find the door. John reveals that this is the door for them to get home, only for Curious Cat and Neo to show up and preventing them from going home, where we find out more information on what happened to Alex. Not only the travels that Alex had with Louis, Curious Cat, and Jean, but what also really happened to Alex, which leads into a pretty interesting fight. In the meantime, RWBY has her heartfelt chat with the blacksmith, who is revealed to be the Great Tree themselves, which Curious Cat warned everybody else that should RWBY return from her trip to the tree, she may not be the same RWBY as they remembered her as. Which in the fight, Weiss has a friendly fire at Jean in the format of the fire from Mirtanaster, which was meant for Neo/Curious Cat. In the end, from RWBY's point of view, she reaches out to Summer Rose's weapon, which is this weapon you see here. Now some questions remain. What really did happen to Summer Rose? Is she really dead? Will Ruby Rose return the same exact way? Will Ruby Rose return with additional wisdom? Will she be older? Will Neo accept her fate and remains in ever after? Will Jean get the Joan of Arc death? Will the tensions between Yang, Blake, and or Weiss come at an all-time high? And most importantly, will Yang and RWBY finally be able to resolve the matters that may have plagued their team and their sisterly relationship from the beginning? Hey guys, Wolfie here and welcome back to the channel. As always, the usual disclaimer, any opinion here is mine and mine alone. This is RWBY Volume 9, Chapter 10 of Solitude and Self. For quite a few things I want to go in here before I get into the meat and potatoes of this video. First and foremost, it's going to be multiple recording sessions because right now my phone is quite low on juice. I do need to recharge it. Another thing here is, this is an episode, once again, written by Eddie and Kiersey. It's longer than we've seen up to this date. However, varying people on Twitter have pointed out that if you combine the intro, the ending credits, and the trailer for the crossover for RWBY and Justice League, I need to English, folks. It's not as long as people would like to think it is. So that's another thing there. So number 3, at one point in the video, it's going to be another pseudo lightning round style things because apparently there's certain things that have come up in sense of what happened to who and the fate of another character that's currently alive, and so on and so forth. Number 4 is going to be the leaks, because there were leaks circulating about Volume 9, Chapter 10, and whether or not how true that leak became. And for the record, I saw the leak itself. And part of the leak, I think I may have mentioned this in one of my recent videos, is that they left the whole thing with Neo in the sense of like her fate being juicy. So I'm going to be re-entering that, and I may have a slight change of opinion there, so to speak. But we'll see when I get there. And the whole thing about Volume 10 and how I feel about Volume 10, that sort of thing, because we do know the script is being written for Volume 10. Nothing else has been confirmed as of yet. And a quick lightning round style thing on that, before I get into this particular episode, I do feel that Warner Brothers will be making the call on Volume 10, because you have to remember the intellectual property for Rooster Teeth and RWBY are now with Warner Brothers. They used to be its own thing, its own IP, all that stuff, but since Warner Brothers took them in, they're going to be the one making that final call. I don't think Crunchyroll may be enough of an impact on that, because Crunchyroll's had their own round of layoffs as well, so it's like, we honestly don't know. And I mean, but yeah, so the thing is, it's like when it comes to Rooster Teeth and RWBY Volume 10 getting the green light, it's on Warner Brothers like to make that call. And if it does get green lit, the very first thing the show is going to need is a team of animators. And I'm going to get into like that when I get into the future of RWBY video, because I do have a bit of a list. I just need some like, you know, to put together like the supporting evidence I've been able to find. So without any further delay, this particular part of the video will be just like what happened in the episode, that so to speak. Now we start off here with Summer Rose. She finishes up the bedtime story she was reading to Yang and RWBY. And we do know that she puts the emblem you see here, I'm going to zoom it in. She puts this on top of the book, you know, all that stuff. And you can tell the expression that Summer had. She wasn't happy to leave him. That's so to speak. Now, we also know that Summer had a bit of a heart-to-heart with Tai Yang about the matter. Because because Tai here, he thinks that it's an OSPA mission for Summer, but we find out moments later that it wasn't an OSPA mission. It was a Raven Summer mission. And this is very much confirming what Crow was saying back in Volume 7. Because Crow and Ozpin had no clue what was going on. Implying that Raven knew what happened to Summer. And the question comes out here, did Raven play a role in what happened to Summer? Furthermore, did she kill Summer? And the fact that Summer was being dishonest to quite a few people. Because Raven says here, there's like first time for everything. Meaning that this is the first time that Summer really lied to anybody. And there were people in the comment section on Twitter saying that there was something going on between Summer and Raven romantically. If that really was the case here, in my personal opinion, then why in Volume 5 would Raven talk bad about Summer? And in Volume 4, why would Tai reveal Raven to be the reason why Team Stark fell apart? Now, in the continuing conversation between Summer and Raven, like, Summer calls out Raven for the fact that she abandoned Yang. And something kind of tells me that that comment by Summer to Raven particularly stung. In my personal opinion. And I also think that the whole thing with the portal that Raven creates for Summer and herself is probably how Raven was able to save Yang in Volume 2. Because it's like creating a portal to those you care about. Now, there's another part in the episode here where Jean, comes face to face with Alex. Instead of like, Jean couldn't save Alex, so it's like the whole thing with this blame game, that sort of thing. Now, I think Alex in some way might have been Penny in a sense, because about being a part of somebody. And that's all I really have to say about this scene for right now. Now, Jean comes out of that whole thing with Alex. He comes into the fight, and then, he mentions the thing with the trees. I'll get into RWBY in a little bit here in this section. So there's this whole thing with, like, Jean, he reveals to Weiss, Blake, and Yang, burn the trees, burn it. And you notice here, it's like, it doesn't have the effect on them. Now, in the meantime, RWBY, goes through her trial by fire and sense of her identity. And again, she was really close to picking Summer. However, she gets to the knife that Alex had, and it was like a little while later she sees a red light. Now Summer calls out saying, "I love you just the way you are." And then, that red light, she runs to it, and it turns out RWBY is face to face with Crescent Rose. And this is like in the height of this particular pillar is a lot higher than everything else. Now, I'm going to get into that in a little bit. Ha. Now, this is when RWBY is reminded by the Great Tree / Blacksmith that you are enough. You have your flaws, all that stuff, but you know that you are, in fact, enough. Which is very much the message here. Now, RWBY breaks out and lets Curious Cat have it. Which is pretty freaking epic. And when it comes to Weiss, and forgive me for the screenshot, I try to time things pretty decently, but the timing of the screenshot flat out sucks. I'm gonna woman up and admit that. But RWBY was like, RWBY! And it's like, Weiss didn't care. And then, let me see, make sure, I want to make sure I get this correct. So, Weiss was like, RWBY! And then Yang's all, you're you. And Blake was like, how? And Jean answered for them. She knew what she needed to be all along. Meaning that, if you remember the whole thing from chapter 4 of this volume, there was a little bit, I think the other three here were not as sure as RWBY. If you really think about it. And this is one of those things where I feel, again, there are some tensions between Weiss and Yang. It's just a matter of, will it be addressed in the show? Because I do feel that it's going to be important for the team to really resolve everything. Now, RWBY and Curious Cat have their epic smackdown. And I do feel that this is, like, the last two episodes, I do feel a lot of it is rushed in the pacing. So it's like, it does leave some degree of deal to be desired there. So Curious Cat, and the whole thing with, like, the smoke, all that stuff, is like, Curious Cat says that, while they're possessing you, it's like, none of this has an effect on me. It's like, and Jean's like, it may not have an effect on you, but it does have an effect on Neo. Which means Curious Cat and Neo separate. Now, and this is something I forgot to mention, so like I said, a lot of this is going to be in no particular order. So, we do all that, so, we also know that somehow Team RWBY and Jean, because if you notice the attack that Weiss spearheaded. So basically, I was trying to find a still, but it was a really nice still of Team RWBY, striking the Curious Cat at the same time. Now, if you guys remember that sort of thing, if you remember the end of the intro to Volume 5, they come at Salem at the same time. And if you notice a certain style in that with that part of that intro is like Weiss goes into a one stance where she's leading with her right hand, and but she switches over to lead from her left. So that sort of thing. Curious Cat does in fact die here. And another thing to keep a note of is that they all join hands and they go to the tree. They go back to Remnant. And Jean comes back as his youthful self, but with a noticeable change. He's got white streaks in his hair, meaning that there is some degree of wisdom that Jean gets. And like I said, this is going to be multiple recording sessions because I would say partially because I do need to recharge my phone. So, let me grab. So, Little does come back as somewhat slightly bigger in size. Let's see here if I remember things correctly. Somewhat, and Juniper stay in Ever After. Neo does her session thing. She becomes part of the tree. And if I remember correctly, we do see RWBY and Team RWBY, I should say, Team RWBY as well as Jean come out of Ever After. They're back at Remnant and they're also in Vacuo. And people mentioning they are varying vessels in Vacuo, so it looks like RWBY's message in Volume 8 managed to get out to everybody because you're talking about the towers that were affected. And I do think that a character that's probably going to come back if RWBY does get greenlit beyond Volume 9. A couple of characters are probably going to be coming back, include Glinda as well as Raven, because Raven has a lot of explaining to do. Tai Gang has some explaining to do in certain regards as well. Another thing here, in sense of like returning characters, again, Raven, she needs to make a comeback and explain things. Glinda's probably going to be making a comeback. I think Ty's going to be making a comeback as well. So those are going to be three characters that I feel are going to be making a comeback. And let's see here. I'm trying to think if there's any other character who I think needs to make a comeback. I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, we're probably going to be seeing Winter again. And I wouldn't be surprised if Whitley finds his semblance. Even though he's got, like, the genetics, I don't know if he's really going to pull it off, in a sense. With that, I'm going to be done with this. I'm going to be wrapping up this recording, this session right here. And reveal this, because it looks like there might be, this might have been a leak in some sorts. So, the next session here, this is when my phone is perhaps at close to full juice, we'll be revealing the leaks and figure out how accurate some of this stuff actually turned out to be. I am back. Actually, I do have my phone on a charger, if you guys don't believe me. I have a 10-foot charger for my phone, so hopefully, this will get me through this next segment of the video. Now, for the last segment, I thought I didn't have this still, but it turns out I do. So, this is a bit of a quickie. So, for this segment of the video, I'm going to be focusing on just the leaks. How much of it turned out to be true. Now, this is one of the key, let me double check, make sure I just want to make sure this is being filmed. So, I actually took out my contacts because my right contact was bothering me, so I'm like, it's not worth getting pink eye over. So, anyhow, so this is perhaps the more focal of the leaks that I've seen. Now, I kind of did this one on its own on purpose because that is what was hidden underneath the black. So, it says here that Jean is sent. There's supposed to have been an Arcos hug. Cece does get out of Neo, gets killed by the Jabberwockers, and scene and/or post-credit scene is RWBY and Jean ? In Vacuo. So, the majority of this section of the leak is true. Curious Cat gets killed by the Jabberwockers by Neo after they separate, and Jean's the one who spearheaded that separation. Jean and Team RWBY all make it out of Ever After. They're back in Remnant and in Vacuum. And they mention here is like, the way they mention it here says end scene and or post credit scene. This is correct. Now what they got wrong here is that I felt that Jean did a pseudo as such, meaning that he was reverted back to his younger self. However, the incorrect part here, there is no Arcos hug. That's the only thing they got wrong here. The accession from Jean is a pseudo accession in my opinion. Curious Cat does get killed. But again, this is just the first of the leaks. Now, this particular leak is one that's probably going to be pissing off some of the more hardcore Bumblebee shippers. Now, again, this is a leak, so this part, take this section with a grain of salt. I will be exploring this more in the Bumblebee video. Now, what they mentioned here, that the whole thing with Blake and Yang was not planned from the start. Because the information here says seasons 1 through 3, I'm just going to go into this briefly. It says that Blake starts out as the most morally ambiguous protagonist. So it turns out to, like, her loyalties may be laying all over the place. Her background is the more mysterious one. Loyalties are tested between terrorists, former allies, and new teams. So things are coming up right out of the gate with Blake. And the last part here says wrestles with conflict of protecting her kind and serving the higher authority. So this is seasons 1 through 3, the Beacon arc. Now we're going to go into the Ever After Atlas Mistral arc, right here from 4 through 9. Now, Blake becomes the center of a love pentagon. Characters are literally written entirely to be a love interest. Thrown out anyway. And this also includes existing characters like Sun, Ilya, Adam, so on and so forth. There are love interests and to find anyone that has chemistry with her. Now, the only reason why Yang wins, quote unquote, is that everybody else is written out or killed. Because you have to remember, Sun was written out, Ilya was written out, Adam was killed. And we don't know the whole thing with the cats here, but you have 1 killed, 2 being written off. So that's another link here, and this is a bit of a remains to be seen. However, I do feel that this is correct because, in all honesty, this is what we see from Blake up to this point. And it's come down to the execution of the writing. Like I said, I'm going to go put this into the Bumblebee video in more detail because there's a little bit of additional information I want to share in that video that doesn't feel right with this video. Now, this is one of the other leaks I was able to find. This is pertaining to Jean. I'm going to zoom in really quickly here. Now, some people were mentioning about one of the leaks saying that Volume 9 was supposed to be 12 episodes, but it got cut down to 10. Which means I do feel this supports the whole thing, things being left to be desired. And this is the fact that the overall pacing here, in my personal opinion, for Volume 9, is just the pacing is unreliable. It's just a lot of things got rushed. So we have this here. This is a potential leak that got cut. So with the leaks here, this is perhaps exposing the problem with RWBY as a show, because if you cut things out, you worry about this, worry about that sort of thing. It's just an inconsistent pace, inconsistent storytelling. It's people are going to be leaving the show. I mean, they're going to stop watching. They're going to pirate it. They're not going to be interacting with the fandom at all. And the fandom itself is really bad as it is. That really needs to change. So on that, I'm going to be taking a break. But before I do, the whole thing with Summer's outfit here, you see this, then this part, I'm just showing the stills, from what happened with Summer. The leaks about her outfit reveal were amongst the others, and her outfit turned out to be 100% correct. So, the whole thing with 4chan, I don't think this is something you want to underestimate, regardless if you're part of the fandom or if you're not. But for the next segment, it's going to be that pseudo lightning round style, and this is going to pertain to Raven and Summer, alongside Jean and the Tree, and a few other things. Pseudo lightning round time. Now for this section of the video, I'm just going to go over certain things here and there. It's like, should it happen in the future? Will it happen? Da 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 da. And there's some cases where I give a very brief reason why, but there will be one instance where it's going to become its own video, and honestly, I'll let you know when it is when I get there. First and foremost, the tensions. Are there still going to be any between Weiss and Yang? Sadly, yes. Because if you remember here, RWBY was like, Weiss was like, RWBY! And then Yang was all, you're you. And then Blake was like, how? Where Jean was like, she knew what she needed to be this entire time. It's just that the team may have been dragging her down, although the leader takes everybody else with them. And this is kind of evident in Volume 9, Chapter 1, where Yang's all, RWBY, you weren't supposed to be here. Which means, yes, there are some tensions unresolved. And remember, Weiss knew bits and pieces of what was going on with RWBY in the events leading up to the last few episodes of Volume 9. Yet, Yang and Blake were far more oblivious to it. That's just my personal opinion. Is Jean Arc a dead man? Yes. Now, for those of you who remember my video on the matter, he is taking on the characteristics of Joan of Arc, meaning that the signs of heresy and rejecting certain authority in favor of direct inspiration from God. This is what's going on with Jean right now. And with the Tree being the quote-unquote God, because we now know with the brothers, there were their first creations. This is where Jean's taking the inspiration from, directly. Meaning that this will put him in line of the Joan of Arc death. Which means he's probably going to get arrested for something and be put on trial for that. But we don't know the who, the what, and the when, or even the where. But it's probably going to happen at some point. Semblance Evolution Part 1. We're going to go over the team first, and right here. And I'm going to focus the Part 2 of the Semblance Evolution on RWBY in a little bit. Are we seeing an evolvement of semblances here? It really depends on the team member, in my personal opinion. Now, with certain aspects of RWBY, it's a bit of a yes, but it's more so in start right next to it, because, again, Part 2 is going to be on her and her alone. Weiss is a definite yes for semblance evolving. In sense of her glyphs, it's just like they're coming up faster. Her summons are coming up faster. And this is on top of using some, parts of summons to give the other team members a helping hand. Blake, on the other hand, I have yet to really see any involvement in her semblance. And she could be the very person that's holding this team back big. So unless we see something with Blake and her semblance evolving, she hasn't really done much there to improve. With Yang, it really depends on how you speak to on the matter. Some may say yes, some may say no. I am personally on the fence because in a way, it is evolving because she's in a lot more control of it. However, it's more like, is it really enough to say yes or no on that one? So that's that on that. Will Neo be making a comeback in the future? Yes. Now, granted, she's part of the tree right now. But if you remember Ruby, her words, it's like she's going to find herself, find her way. It just, we don't know the how. And with Neo's final act saying for them to get the hell out of Ever After, it's like they have somewhere to go back to. They have something to go back to. She doesn't. So it's one of those things where it's like Neo is coming back, but we don't know how or what side like she will be on alliance-wise. Will somewhat previously known as Little and Juniper, will they be making a comeback in the show in the future? Yes. Now, again, it's the why is more like the people of Ever After may be coming to Remnant's aid. In when it's needed the most. But it's more so like how they're going to make that work. Will we be seeing an evolution to the Silver Eyes ability that RWBY has? That is a most resounding yes. Now, I left the whole thing with RWBY's thing on the matter part 1 out on purpose. But when it comes to the Silver Eyes aspect of what RWBY could do, that is a resounding yes. Now, you notice that Yang had a little bit more control of her abilities in the fight against Curious Cat. We're probably going to be seeing RWBY on the same level as that and surpass it. Which is noted here when she makes like that defensive strike with her left hand like this against Curious Cat. It's like she was able to like fend off that attack like it was nothing. But for RWBY and the Silver Eyes aspect of what she can do, that will evolve, and I think it will help stop Salem. Will the blacksmith here, aka the tree, play a role in Neo's like ascension, whatever have you? I would say yes to this one. It's because it's like Neo sacrificing herself to make sure Team RWBY and Jean get back to Remnant. It's like it inspired Neo to want to become a better person. And I think when Neo meets up with the tree, comes back better. We're probably going to be seeing a much better version of Neo at some point, which supports my whole thing with Neo. I do think Neo is going to make a comeback. It's a matter of whether or not the tree is going to be a role in it, and I think that's going to be the case. Will these 5 individuals be in need of a real good chit-chat upon Volume 10 and beyond? That's a yes, no question about it. Because you have to remember a few things. Blake questioned RWBY's reasoning to be a huntress. Weiss questioned RWBY's abilities. Both of these instances were in Volume 1. Yang chose not to question. Yang, however, questioned RWBY's decision-making, which I feel was the starting point in how RWBY got into Ever After in the first place. And it was after Yang questioned RWBY where everybody was like, the fuck, Yang? You decided to pull that at this time? Now's not a good time. That sort of thing. So the team plus Jean really need a heart-to-heart on this one. And Jean, speaking of whom, he really needs to say something about what happened to Penny. Because Weiss can only mention so much on her end. But if Jean's not filling in the rest, it's like, seriously, y'all letting him get away with this? That type of vibe. Now, the following section here, this is where I said what I said. This is going to be the subject of a special video pertaining to Summer Rose and Raven Branwen. What does Raven know, and did Raven kill Summer? So, to answer both of those questions as briefly as possible, without spoiling everything for that video, Raven definitely knows a lot more about Summer's fate. She needs to come out and reveal it. As to whether or not I think Raven killed Summer, that's also a yes. Because Volume 5, Chapter 6, the tea conversation in Known by Its Song, Raven and Crow did not enter the Huntsman Academies to become a huntsman. They went there to kill them, to learn how to kill them. And because of that little hint, I feel that Raven not only knows what happened to Summer, Raven was also the one to kill her. But we don't know, like, certain specifics behind that, and that needs to be revealed. New day, haircut, and yes, I cut my own hair. That's a separate video altogether. And this is more on that pseudo lightning round style. Now, I was thinking about certain things here or there, and by that, I slept on some stuff, looked at some stuff on Twitter, so that sort of thing. Now, part of this is on Yang herself. Does she have any idea what happened this summer? The answer is yes, because you have to remember Volume 5, Varying Moments, between Raven and Yang. That means Yang was in fact piecing things together. And I do feel Yang is also hiding some information about RWBY pertaining to Summer. For that reason alone. Regarding Summer and Raven's relationship, were they a couple at some point? No. A lot of people on Twitter have come out along the lines that they were dating each other behind Ty's back. However, we don't know the extent of Raven and Ty's relationship when Yang was born, and we don't know what led Ty to go to Summer and conceive RWBY. We simply don't know. But for people to see, certain aspects in less than a minute and assume things, it's a really bad move in my personal opinion. So I don't think there's anything going on between Summer and Raven romantically. As the way Summer was looking at Yang, vastly different from the way that Summer was looking at Raven. So we simply don't know. However, like I said, I think Summer viewed Raven as like a rival, if that makes any sense. Will Curious Cat make a comeback? Jury is currently out on this one. However, it's a no for me. It's just like the Curious Cat served their purpose, and that's that on that. Who will RWBY be able to spot once they get into the grounds of the Akio Shade Academy? I do feel Sun Wukong is going to be making a comeback. Things are going to get very, very, very interesting between Blake and Sun, alongside Velvet, the remainder of Team Coffee, the remainder of Team Sun. So things are going to get quite awkward in a hurry. This could play a role in the whole thing with Bumblebee, but again, the whole thing on Bumblebee, that is a separate video itself, and I'm going to keep it brief with that. But I do feel some of the characters that were written off are going to make a comeback. Things are going to get interesting as well as awkward between Team RWBY and those who make a comeback. Now with Ilya, I do feel she's going to make a comeback, but we know she's a lesbian full-blown. And I honestly don't think that's going to be another thing that's going to make it awkward for Yang if Blake sees Ilya once again. In addition, I think some honesty is going to be questioned. But the question comes down to whose honesty is going to be questioned. It's going to be Blake and Yang. And part of it is due to Yang being pansexual, meaning that there's going to be potential for Yang having multiple partners with Blake as the primary. And then with Blake, it's more like the whole item with Adam towards the end of Volume 6, where it's just like Blake has been hiding some information in the sense of were Blake and Adam really a romantic couple in a sense? Probably, we don't know. And we know that people who are bisexual tend to be more of a one-person type of deal with their relationships, meaning that they want to be with one person and one person only. Now, which could create some conflicts with Yang being pansexual, but again, I'm going to go into more detail on that on the Bumblebee video. Will White Rose ever become canon? No. Now the thing is, like, the relationship between Weiss and Ruby is sisterly, very sisterly. They're like close buds. It's like the fact that Weiss understood certain aspects of Ruby better than both Yang and Blake put together means that when it comes down to like the whole aspect of the team splits up again, we may see like sisterly, close friend like moments between Weiss and Ruby. Because it's like Lindsay Jones has come out in public mentioning, White Rose does not make sense canonically. Although if you really think of their interactions, like in Lindsay Jones, who voices Ruby, may be proven wrong. Because I think with Weiss, it's just like, no interest in boys, but it's like, I think Weiss might be demisexual, and that's a sexual orientation where it's like, the individual has an emotional bond with certain people. It doesn't matter the gender, it's just like, they have to have a certain bond with emotional people, meaning that they may not like all of it, but they may like just like one person. So it's one of those things, it's like, it comes down like that. Now, if Weiss does not come out as demisexual, it might come out in Ruby. We honestly don't know. But I do not think White Rose becomes canon, because it's like, in all honesty, their interactions are very sisterly-like. And that's all I have to really say on White Rose. With that being said, though, a lot of their interactions is like it's executed really well, and it consistently shows that tone. Now, we'll see. Well, the whole thing with Salem, will Ruby be fighting Salem? I wouldn't be surprised, because you're talking about Ruby learning new things about herself, her abilities, her semblance, all that stuff. I do feel Ruby's going to be fighting Salem. She's going to have a lot more confidence to take on Salem. But I think when it comes to stopping Salem, it's going to be a team effort. Did Summer Rose have some fears about Yang turning out to be Raven based on this still? I honestly think that is the case. Now, the reason why I say this is because if you notice some of Yang's actions, it might be mirroring Raven more than we think. And which is the reason why I honestly feel that Yang is hiding some information from Ruby. I know Ty is for sure hiding some information from Ruby, but it's like, I do feel Yang is hiding some additional information. So, but again, that's just my opinion. Will Nora and Ren be making a comeback? I think so, but it's more so the information from the blacksmith / the tree. Will Alex somehow make a comeback and return to Remnant? I think so. I think this is a yes. However, certain specifics behind it remains to be seen. Will Raven Brandwood be making a comeback? Yes. Now, this is one of those where it's like she's got a lot of explaining to do alongside Jean. That's all I'm going to say on that. Does Blake think Ruby may have feelings for her? I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, because if you think about the whole interaction back in Chapter 7 of Volume 9, you have to look at Blake's facial expression. And something tells me that I think Ruby may be harboring some secret feelings for Blake that might cite on the realm of romance. And some supporting evidence comes along from the end of Volume 6, where it's just like, the hug, there's just like, you see the smile on Ruby's face. That says it all. I think Ruby does have feelings for Blake as well. Regarding the leaks that proved Summer's outfit to be correct, alongside this aspect right here. And now I'm not talking about the Arcos hug. We're talking about this bottom one here where it actually turned out to be correct. Are we going to be seeing further leaks about what was cut, all that stuff? Yes. Unfortunately, this comes to show that Rooster Teeth and Crunchyroll need to better protect their information, because if it gets leaked out like this again, This could be a sign of RWBY getting canceled. And I have my own opinion on the canceling RWBY Volume 10. That's going to be the whole future RWBY video right there. I'm going to leave it out of this one. Does Rooster Teeth need to address things like this? And I'm going to show you a lot of it. And mind you, this is the start of some of this stuff. So, does Rooster Teeth need to address things like this? This is a definite yes, no question about it, because if you really think about it, this is part of the reason why RWBY is getting as bad as it is. Not just with the writing and the execution of varying things, but also parts of the fandom saying stuff like this. And for the reason of a difference of opinion over a fictional show with fictional characters. And the fact that it's not being even addressed properly, let alone at all, Rooster Teeth needs to do way better. Do I feel the return of Pyrrha in the Ever After shows that Rooster Teeth lied about some stuff? Yes, because previously they were mentioning that Pyrrha was not going to be making a comeback. However, you've seen in a couple of instances in Volume 9, she made a comeback in Ever After, which I feel Rooster Teeth has been lying to the audience about that matter. Regarding Roman Torchwick, the fact that he came back like this, I honestly feel that this was well done. That's all I'm going to say on that. The flowers here, that from the explanation from Blacksmith / the tree, does it indicate anything? Does it indicate anything regarding relationships between the individual members romantically? It might be, because if you think about it, if you look at Blake's flower right here, it's a little bit closer to the red rose than the yellow lines have, the yellow the yellow flowers that represent Yang. It looks like it's being drifted. It looks like it's a little further away from this flower than it is to the rose. It's a little further away. So I do feel that something may happen between RWBY and Blake. We honestly don't know. And part of it comes from the whole Volume 8 fight, featuring RWBY and Blake fighting together for the first time. And they nearly got their asses kicked. So it's one of those things that's just like, I do feel Blake's feelings for Yang might not be as genuine as we think. But it comes down to whatever comes up in the future volumes. Should we get them? Is the whole hashtag Greenlight Volume 10 jumping the gun? That's a yes without a question. Because if memory serves me correctly, none of the animators got their contracts renewed. Meaning that if the green light does come up for Volume 10 and beyond, the very first thing that's needed is a new animation team. Now, I remember talking this over with a couple of people on Twitter about the matter. Someone mentioned that cheap labor might be needed. That's not going to be the way to go, in my personal opinion, because if you think about a current society where prices are high for essential goods, especially vital goods for those with varying medical conditions or conditions that are tied to mental health, it's like people have to pick and choose. And you have to be able to afford things quite easily. Now, there is a lawsuit against Rooster Teeth that I kind of caught on whim and in a way on accident, that this may hurt the chances of the Volume 10 from being given the green light. Part of it is because of that lawsuit. And there's a lot of he said, she said pertaining to the budget. Now, before I go any further, this is part of the pseudo lightning round style. The other part of this is going to be a lengthier explanation, because there's a lot of things that people really need to, take into factor here. So for the whole thing with the monetary aspect in the sense of the green lighting, now this is where it's a bit of a lengthier explanation, so which will tie into some varying final thoughts before I get into the thoughts of the chapter itself. So some people were mentioning about a budget that Rooster Teeth had for Volume 9, which was cut because of the crossover that's coming up for Justice League and RWBY. Now, some people were mentioning about, and this is pertaining to Volume 9, Chapter 9, everything was short. They were mentioning certain things about how much things cost, things behind production, and then this is another mentioning here that, and these are coming from RWBY animators they had their contracts not get renewed. So it's more like people are saying, hey, please be kind, all that stuff, but it comes down to defending certain actions. It's like, it's not it. It's not. It's like, I feel that we've been lied to about the budget, production, all that stuff, and honestly, Rooster Teeth needs to take into consideration, like, they have to fess up something to their audience, and it has to be big, and it has to be now. Now, these are some of my final thoughts on certain aspects of what I've covered thus far, because the last section will, in fact, be the my overall opinion on Volume 9, Chapter 10. So, regarding Summer and Ty, they never wed, because you can see here, there's no ring on Summer's finger. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that if you remember Volume 6, where we meet one of Jean's sisters and her wife, there was a ring on it. Meaning that we now know the relationship between Tai Yang and Summer, they never got married. Which is safe to say with Raven and Tai, they never got married. So it's more than else, it's like, this is where I also feel that Tai has some explaining to do. Alongside Yang. As for Curious Cat, this was perhaps one character of, like, we didn't know if he was friend or foe. This was well done. This is perhaps the only thing that, one of the only things that really saved Volume 9. And the whole thing with that, Volume 9 as a whole, that's its own video. But Curious Cat, like the way it was done here, this I feel saved Volume 9 outside of a couple of other things. As for Neo, it's just like the fact that she did her thing here in Ever After, teaming up with Curious Cat somehow via that possession. It's like, I'm not 100% sure in the sense of, like, the cutting, like, the team up before he possesses her was a good thing or a bad thing. I honestly don't know. It's something I really can't say. But it's one of those things, it's like, the fact that, she becomes a villain in her own right here for them, and by them, Team RWBY and Jean to deal with, it's like, it was coming. That's just me. A part of me, now that I'm looking at this photo much more carefully, when Summer's looking at Yang, and we're talking the young Yang, I do feel that even though there's that little smile from Summer to Yang, I also feel that Summer is worried about Yang in the sense of whether or not Yang is going to become more like Raven. And if I were to ask that question, I do feel that's a bit of a yes. I do feel Yang is becoming more like Raven than not. Now, as to, for Red and Nora, when the team and Jean see these two again, it comes down to whether either of them are going to be alive or dead. Now, nothing will be surprising here in any way. If I had to be completely honest here, I will say, though, that I think Ren's going to be questioning the validity of Blake and Yang's romantic relationship. The reason why I honestly feel this way is because you have to remember that Volume 7 conversation where it's like, Ren's like, someone's not being honest with their feelings for the other. and won't properly reciprocate. And something tells me that it might be Blake that might not truly return Yang's feelings. Or there could be something that goes on that where Yang might not return Blake's feelings. So it comes down to what circumstance that will Ren expose. As for RWBY, the whole arc, in the sense of the tea drinking, and the fact that back in Volume 5 that Weiss and Yang never drank the tea that Raven offered them, it's like, I honestly feel there's going to be a bit of a confrontation between RWBY and Yang. Just comes down to the circumstances that leads up to it. Why will it get resolved? How will it get resolved? Now, what do I think about the finale of Volume 9? Now, due to varying leaks that proved some aspects of this to be correct, I think this is one of those instances that it just fell flat. Things were rushed as predicted. Now, regarding the aspect of whether or not I feel that Volume 9 should have had 2 more episodes to get things better explained, that's a definite yes. But that's just me. I honestly feel that Raven is hiding some additional information, and to a lesser extent Yang. That's just me on that aspect based on this. And I do feel that Summer is in fact worried for Yang turning out to be like Raven. Now granted, RWBY's message got out to a lot of people. The question remains, how many relics does Salem have at this point? So that tells me that we should not be surprised if Salem has at least 3 of the relics. And one of them could be, in theory, the relic of choice, which is the crown. And then somehow Team RWBY gets the Sword of Destruction. But it remains to be seen. I don't think varying relationships, between the team here, even with Jean, is going to remain the same. I honestly feel that I think Ren's going to be the one questioning the validity of Blake and Yang's relationship, because the Volume 7 conversation with Nora, one's not going to really feel the same way about the other. Which, a further hint on that comes from Volume 9, Chapter 6, post Bumblebee Kiss, meaning that they're going to be forgetting something, and I think it's going to be something kind of critical. And you're talking about the whole thing with Adam, it's like, Blake's not being 100% honest with you. We can see a lot of honesty being questioned here at this point. Now, pertaining Jean romantically, post Arcos, I do think that Jean is a dead man, because now he's taking direct inspiration from Blacksmith / The Tree. This puts him on point where his actions from here on out is going to get him killed. Because you're talking about a character based on somebody from real life who was burnt alive for reasons tied to heresy and rejecting church authority in favor of direct inspiration from God. What Jean's going to be doing in future volumes is going to get him killed. But the question is, who's going to be the one that kills him? And something tells me it's going to be Cinder. Do I think the team's going to get split up at some point? Yes. Because things are going to get quite awkward. And for the Bumblebee, if they break up, I do think there are going to be a few people being a factor here. RWBY being a catalyst. Weiss being a reason. Sun, I think, is going to become a reason as well. But overall, there are varying aspects of this chapter that just fell flat. And you have a good credit scene alongside the trailer for the crossover, alongside that intro. It felt like maybe 21 to 23 minutes. So it's it just felt a little flat on the length. Certain things could have been expanded a bit more. And one of the things that helped this chapter fall flat is the revelation of budget issues. It's a lot of he said, she said, and unfortunately, I cannot really trust Rooster Teeth with an intellectual property like this anymore. And that's all I really have. So the next video before I sign off, next video is may not be the RWBY Volume 9 review. I do need a few weeks to think this one over. However, the next video is more than likely going to be a trip to Micro Center. I really need to do an April video on that. I was going to do one maybe a week or so ago, but just certain circumstances tied to that just didn't feel right timing-wise. So it's going to be a Micro Center visit before I get to the Volume 9 review, because I just want to make sure I have some time to really think things over before I get into that. And then maybe very late May or early June will be the Bumblebee video. So it's going to be that. And then in between the Volume 9 review and the Bumblebee video will be the future of RWBY. So it's going to be like the next 4 videos. It's going to be a video log for the Microtrip Center visit. The April one, that is. The second one's going to be the Volume 9 review. Third video is going to be the future of RWBY. Now there is some additional information showing up. And the fourth one is going to be the Bumblebee video. And since I give my opinion on that. And after that, I honestly don't know. But I probably will be focusing on Tekken 8 stuff, because I saw the reveal trailers for some of the characters. And I do want to get myself back into like doing gaming stuff. That's all I really have for this video, with Wolvie here signing off. I will catch you all on the flip side.